Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number 1303. This is a 5-inch 26D satin chrome double-acting spring hinge. Steel base. This is an adjustable, non-handed, steel-based double-acting spring hinge. Maximum door weight 93 pounds, up to 3 foot by 6 foot 8. Will work with a door thickness range from 1.125 to 1.5 inches. If your door is typical 1.75, this would not be the proper hinge for you. You'd want the 6-inch version. And if it's smaller than 1.125, you'd certainly want a smaller hinge. Okay. Generally, you're going to see 3 hinges installed on a door. A typical application would be an 1.375 double-acting door, perhaps in a kitchen, to a restaurant area, to a seating area. 1.375 solid core wood door, maybe a door with a window, and you'd have 3 of these installed, 2 of these at the top, and then 1 at the very bottom. Okay. The door leaf can be typically mortised or surface mounted, and we'll go over that more in a moment. The jamb leaf is always surface mounted. You would not want to use this on a door that had a beveled edge. You would want to use this only on a square edge door, and that's because these leaves are just made for a square edge door. If your door was beveled, your door would not sit perpendicular in the opening of the hinge. Now, there is a link below this video to the template. Let's take a look at that first. The template is quite simply a dimensional drawing of the hinge. 5-inch is really derived from the height of the door leaf, and it's really not the most critical thing to know. What is the most critical thing to know is how thick is the door that you're using this hinge with. That will define how tall of a hinge that you're going to use. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's just what you're going to want to be dealing with. It's unusual to have an 1.5-inch door, thick door. 1.375. This is the right hinge for it. If it's 1.75, again, go to the 6-inch. All the other dimensions are laid out there. Most importantly, the location of the screw holes. You might want to try to match this up to a hinge that you currently have, and reviewing the link to the template along with the tape measure will give you an absolute determination how close this is to your existing hinge. Now, moving on to the link to the installation instructions. That is a very handy link to review, and there's a lot of data there. And let's go over it next. First of all, it will come packaged with your hinge. Okay, you can buy them in any quantity multiple that you want, each by 2, by 3, whatever you need. The installation instructions, looking at the upper right-hand corner of the paperwork up here. To properly mount the spring hinges, it is necessary to release the tension on the springs. Okay, so what you're going to get in your package is all the screws in a complementary finish, but you're also going to get what's called a tension rod, that bar that's there. So what it says is to properly mount the spring hinges, it's necessary to release the tension. When this hinge comes from Hager, the tension pin, of which there are 2 of them per hinge, are already installed, and there's already some tension set on the spring. Release the tension by taking the tension rod, inserting it into one of the holes, and when the tension collar, this is the tension collar, the item with the holes, you can see that there's not one down here. Insert it and turn it clockwise, and as you do so, you'll be able to get access to that pin. Take the pin out, don't lose these, and then you can release your tension carefully. Now that leaf will just move on you. Let's go ahead and do it to the other side as well. I'm going to put it down on my desktop and just drop that pin out so I don't snap my fingers on the spring tension. Okay. Now I've removed the spring tension from both of the leaves, and there you go. Now from this point you can install it. Let's move on. Insert the tension rod into one of the adjustment holes on the tension lug. Turn it so that the tension pin can be removed. That we've done. Don't lose your tension pins. Mount the door leaf to the door flange. So this is the door leaf. The jamb is back here. The door leaf fits into the pocket here. Mount the door leaf to the door flange. The door leaf may be mortised or surface applied and must be centered between the axial centers of the double-acting spring hinge. So you've got a center line here and a center line here, vertical axis of pivoting on your hinge, your door has to be in the center. The center of your door has to be in the center of those two vertical axes of pivoting. Okay. We're going to talk more about that mortise or surface mount in a moment. Align the door center line with the center line of the frame. Okay, so now you've got this hinge applied to the door. Now it's time to get the door and the hinge into the opening. Align the center line of the door with the center line of the frame. So you're going to have a cased opening frame, obviously, and you will make sure that the hinge is centered in that jamb. I've even seen people that have a real interesting use for a remodel, was where a client had like a 3'6" door going, a regular swing door, going from a dining area to a kitchen. Well, what the client did was, because they didn't want to rip the frame out, they were able to install the hinge leaf right onto the stop of the frame. Now, granted, it was an 8 3/4 deep frame, so that stop width of the stop was, you know, approaching 5 inch. So it worked out really well. But I thought it was a real interesting way to avoid going with a cased opening frame. Obviously, the door had to be custom sized, but they were able to, you know, keep the existing frame in place. Anyway, you're going to be starting out with a cased opening frame typically, and you're going to get the center of this and the center of your jamb. That's what you want to do. Shim under the jamb flanges if it's necessary for proper door alignment. You're going to want to make sure that you've got a proper margin at the head and the two sides. The hinges should be mounted at a height designated in figure 2, and then moving on to step 5, the axial center of each hinge must be vertically aligned, meaning you've got 2 or 3 of these hinges installed on a door. This vertical line of pivoting must be compatible and plumb all the way down through all your hinges. Now, looking at figure 2, you can see where they're coming up with those 2 hinges up at the top. Crucial. You've got to install them that way, because what you'll do is find that the door, these hinges have been engineered for a door up to that 93-pound weight, up to that width and height, okay, not beyond that, based on this installation. Now that heavy door, that 100-pound or practically 100-pound door, as it comes through your opening, it's actually going to travel like an oval. It's not going to go on a true circular arc, because the weight of that door is really forcing that, here's an exaggerated look, forcing that hinge to stretch out like this and let the door come way out. So you're going to need to make sure that you get all your spring power mounted up at the top as appropriately called out. I've had customers go with 2 hinges, and if you've got a hollow core 3'6" door, 2 hinges is really what you want. But if you're going to get something solid core, just go with 3 immediately. I've had people get way beyond the engineered limits of this stuff and have 5 hinges on a door, and I obviously can't make a testament as to whether or not it would be appropriate to do that, but I can tell you that it worked for them. You know, so there you go. 1 hinge down at the bottom, so you've got your 3-inch dimension from the top of the door to the top of the first hinge, 2 or 3 inch between. There you go. You'll see this installation all the time. Is really common and typical. Now, the installation instructions, before we get to the spring adjustment tensioning instruction, second part of that, if you've got a 5-inch hinge and you're going to mortise this leaf, your mortise depth is 3/32 of an inch. So, what is that, 96 thousandths? 1 divided by 32 times 3, 0.094 thousandths of an inch. That's what you're going to mortise this. And when you get that mortise done, so it's just less than 1/8 of an inch, you're going to have a fairly typical and common margin between the jamb and the door. Okay, so when you're mortising it, you can see down there in figure 2 where it's calling out a 1/4 inch margin when the leaf is mortised, and your mortise depth for this hinge is 3/32, or 5/16 of a margin when it's not mortised. Now, crucial to take that value and incorporate it into the margin that you see between the 2 doors, provided that you're doing a pair of doors or a single door, it doesn't really matter, 3/16 to 1/4 inch. So, why is all that important? Well, you're going to be starting with something generally that's fixed, meaning that either the inside frame width is going to be already determined, or your door width is going to be determined. Or maybe you can make both to suit. So, but the bottom line is you're going to start somewhere. Very common application is that you're doing a movie theater, the doors from the kitchen food prep area out to the dining area for the clients. Double acting doors. Okay. You're going to be going with a hollow metal cased opening frame. It's a single or a double. It doesn't really matter for this. 6 foot wide, 3 foot wide. Let's say it's a single door, 3 foot wide. That's 36 inch. So we know we're starting with a 36 inch clear inside frame opening. Now, you know that you've got to have between 3/16 and a 1/4 inch on the side opposite the hinge, and you know you've got to have a 1/4 inch or 5/16, depending on whether or not you're mortising that flange, the door leaf. So you'll take 36, and let's just say minus a 1/4 inch for the push plate or pull plate, push plate side, and then let's say you're going to mortise it, the leaf. That's another 1/4 inch. So your net door width is going to be 35.5, or 35 and 9/16, 35 and 7/16 if you've not mortised that leaf. So you use that logic to determine everything. Let's go in reverse. Let's say you had a 36 inch wide door that you bought, and you're not going to plane it down. It's 36 inch, but you're going to take some board and make your own frame. Okay, so you got a 36 plus a 1/4 inch plus either a 1/4 or 5/16. You can see where all that's going to come in. Now, let's throw a wrench into the conversation. What if you're going to radius the side opposite the hinges, like the top row of tile in a bathroom is bull-nosed? Well, what if you were to radius the entire door style? You can do that if you've got the tool and the desire to do it, the tools. You would be able to get that margin down to about 1/8 of an inch. It's nice, it's clean. You can't do that on the hinge side, obviously, but you can on the opposite side. You might want to do that. I'm not going to go into a discussion of how to radius the door style over because it's atypical for this installation, but if you're going to do it, call us. We will walk you through how, at least our experience on how to do it. But if you're looking at this hinges, you may have run into this operation in the past. And it really is only going to pick you up about 1/8 of an inch anyway. But if you've got the tool, it might make for a better looking installation. Anyway, reach out to us if you want to discuss that. Now, moving on to the spring adjustment tensioning instructions. Place the door in the closed position and wedge the door up from the floor until it's plumb. So your door is going to be, your hinge is going to be attached to the door, the hinge is going to be attached to the frame, but your door is really going to be sagging like this. Get it shimmed on both jambs and at the bottom. Make sure your margins are correct. Make sure that your margin, that you're plumb, and that you are level to the sill, or whatever the case is. Even do a reality check at that point. Now, place the door in the closed position and wedge up from the floor until it's plumb. Okay. Insert the tension rod into the tension collar or tension lug and turn it in the corresponding direction based on figure 1. Okay, so we are assuming that you're installing the tension lugs with them pointed towards the top. If that's the case, insert your tension rod and turn it clockwise. And that's how you set tension, by turning it clockwise. If for some reason, or if you have a pair of doors, you install it with them down, turn it counterclockwise. If you are doing an installation of a pair of doors, Hager wants you to install one leaf with them up and the other leaf with them pointed down. Clockwise when they're up. Just remember that. It has to be the opposite if they're down. Insert the tension pin. Once you've got some tension set on there, go ahead and take your pin, drop it into one of the holes. Carefully release your tension rod, and now you've got tension on that leaf. I've got so much tension on it, it's hard to even open it. Now for the other leaf, same sort of operation. When it's pointed up, turn it clockwise and then insert your pin, release the tension, and now you've got your spring tension set on all your leaves. And then, carefully and gingerly, test the operation. You don't want to get too aggressive. Don't open it to 90 degrees. Just get it tested really easy. You don't want to find out that there's not enough tension set by the door, crashing into the frame and damaging a paint that you might have done to the frame or the door itself, etc. Increase the tension on the top hinge if the door sags or the return action is too slow. That top hinge is really doing a lot of the work, so that's the one that's going to really be getting all the force of the door applied to it. Okay, that's what it's doing. The bottom hinge is really just keeping the door in place, so to speak. If you hear excessive creaking as you open the door, that's because the spring inside of here is being twisted beyond what it's made for. That's a sure telltale sign that you don't have enough spring hinges on the door, or you're outside of the engineered limits of the hinge. Hager specifically says do not exceed 5 holes of tension. There you go. You can safely go up to 5 holes of tension, but if you've got a lighter door, the return action might be a bit too aggressive. So be careful, test it 1 hole at a time sort of situation. Available in brass, available in black from Hager as well. Okay, a fantastic company, Hager. They have a comprehensive offering of hinges, and it's their namesake, Hager Hinge. Architectural hinges, commercial hinges, residential hinges. But it's not only hinges. Sliding door hardware, tracks and hangers, exit devices, door closers, lock sets, weather stripping, continuous geared aluminum hinges, trim and auxiliary hardware like door stops and kick plates, etc. If you have any questions on the Hager number 1303 5-inch 26D satin chrome double acting spring hinge or any other Hager product, please feel free to reach out to us.